everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the Lobby of Hobbies podcast. This show is going to be a little bit different than our first show, where we kind of introduce what we're about. Here we want to introduce you to a segment that we intend to make make an appearance on a lot of our podcasts in the future. It's going to be called Through the Noise. So this segment's going to be called Through the Noise. The idea of Through the Noise, we understand that there's things that go on in the world, right? Some kind, we know that the idea of Black Lives Matter movement going on in the world today, and social injustice, the racial injustice, all those things, systemic racism, all those topics that we hear about in the news today, right? Right now we have the quarantine, the stay-at-home order, all those things, right? They create noise. They create audible noise that we actually hear. We're seeing it on the radio. We're seeing it on TV. We're hearing it on the radio. But those are some things sometimes that it has a tendency to either bring us down, or we can rise above it or get through it, right? Getting through it doesn't mean we're not talking about forgetting about it, but we're talking about getting through it. How do we allow it to mold us, change us? How do we affect the change within it?
Right.
But how are our hobbies either affect those things, but also how do our hobbies kind of break through the noise, in essence? Like how we can kind of get a breakaway, because sometimes we need to de-stress, right? We talk about that, having that moment to just de-stress. I know you and I have those just conversations, but yeah, that's where we're at. So this is Through the Noise. It's a segment, so it's probably be longer than what our normal Through the Noise is, and today's topic is called The Struggle is Real. Right? Let's just be real about it, right? The struggle is real. I know the struggle sometimes has been real on my pocket during this pandemic.
Right.
But
you ain't lying.
So let's first talk about this quarantine, Judge. Like, what's been going on for this first Through the Noise? Hit us up with Through the Noise. Because you were telling me before we really got on, like, where it's been at in your head with this whole idea of Through the Noise. And you had some pretty good insight when we were talking about this.
Yeah. So for me, I'm a thinker. And I see what's going on anywhere at any time, right? And in the news, Facebook, because Facebook posts a lot of stuff. A lot of it's fake, but you can sift through that. And it's just a matter of taking it in, analyzing how I feel about it, and really taking a understanding of my position in it mentally, right? So it's processing what I see in media. And it can be anything. It could be, why do Instagram models think that they are blah, blah, blah? Or why do, there's a meme post going around, and it was like two people meet, right? A young guy and a young girl meet, and it's like, hey, my name is such and such, and I'm an Instagram model. And, you look at them and they just take Instagram pictures. And then the guy's like, hey, my name is such and such, and I am a lieutenant on this battlefield, and come to find out they're talking about modern warfare. They're a gamer. So digging into different lifestyles, trying to get an understanding of what's going on beyond what we see, and applying it to the hobbies, because that's why we do it. It's all about matching up what we see, what we hear, and we analyze it to help us get through it. Because sometimes your hobby can also distract you versus actually help you get through it. So
Correct.
Sometimes you have to talk it out, and process what you feel, so that then you can go to the hobby and it can be a hobby again versus it being a burden. So for me, that happens to me a lot. So, and this, Jazz, because, we talk about it all the time. So I felt like, Through the Noise is something that's really needed in the world. Is a lot of people just see what they see and they believe it, and come to find out half of the stuff you really have to think on and see if it really makes sense. And, when you shed light on certain things, you're surprised and you're shocked at what you find, and you're like, wait, and it does make you feel a different type of way. So, and that's what we're going to talk about, today. At this point, we're definitely talking about quarantine life right now, because as of right now, it is June 19th at 12:30. Well, no, June 19th. We'll just say June 19th right now. And we're still in the midst of quarantine. We've been in quarantine since March
19th.
March 19th. Goodness gracious. So March, April, May, June, oh my gosh, wait, March, April, May, June, we're 4 months in. Oh my gosh, it doesn't feel like it. So we're 4 months into this quarantine, man, and it is crazy. 6 feet away. It's by law that you're not allowed in stores without a mask. Social distancing, making sure, don't go to nobody's house, stay in, don't go nowhere unless you absolutely have to. Only the essential stores are open, grocery stores. You know, for whatever reason, I guess liquor stores are essential. And all these other places. Now we're in a place where everything's opening back up, so we'll see what happens. But the people who aren't deemed essential work from home, myself included, my wife included. So, working from home, we have 2 children, 2 girls. One's 4, another one's 2, and the 4-year-old's in pre-K. So we have to do the teachers' work while we're paying them to do their work, all the while doing our work at the same time. So, these are things that we're dealing with, and some people don't have jobs. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and to see if I can get help for another friend of mine with his unemployment, and come to find out they're so backed up that the server crashed in March when everyone filed for unemployment, when a lot of people got let off or lost their job. And then they're so backed up, they're 6 months behind right now.
Oh, wow.
So it's crazy. It's crazy right now, and people who really need the assistance, some are getting it and some aren't, and some it looks good, some it doesn't look too good, and people are getting sick, people are dying. I lost 2 aunts already in a span of 2 weeks due to corona,
Wow.
COVID-19. So, it's, and funerals are Zoom calls. A friend of mine, he lost his grandfather and was his father figure, and it was only him and his mom that could go to the actual, to the funeral. It wasn't even a real funeral because, nobody was there. They had to Zoom in everyone else. So
Yeah.
it was, it's a struggle, man. It's like you're dealing with loss and you can't really connect the way that you used to, which is that human interaction. And it's rough,
Yeah.
but that's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, I think it's been crazy. Like, when we think about like the quarantine, right? And, it's funny because you see like funny memes about it going on and things like that. And everybody has their opinion, right? You have the conspiracy theorists, you have people who are in, so everybody has their thing. But all in all, everybody had to go through this quarantine, this stay at home order, no matter what state you're in, no matter what city you're in, right? So some level there was a stay at home order, and whether you abided by it or not, that was on you, right? That was your thing. But everybody had to think, and it affected everybody in some type of way. I know, like for me, in the line of work, I work in it's essential company. I work for the state. I work with children, and working for the government, it's been one of those, like, how do we function completely when we're out in the field, when we're going to homes, when we're visiting children, when we're dealing with families that are in, families that essentially do need your assistance. And it's not only us, all companies change, right? Everybody had to learn what a Zoom call was, what is Google Meets, what are all these things.
Right.
Fortunately, I was using these things, thankfully, because of our hobbies that I'm into, right? I was
Right.
playing games already, with people all over the world over, like, hangouts, like Dice Master. We talked about it last show, on the competitive scene. That's how I knew about, these things. But people had to learn it, right? You had to get your computer at home, do these things, how do you function completely? And a lot of people's worlds were turned upside down. Like you said, people lost their jobs. How do you pay the bills? How are you paying your mortgage? Fortunate enough for me and my wife, we didn't lose our job. We were able to, work from home. It was challenging. It's
Right.
challenging when you're working from home. I have a daughter. She was not yet 1. She's turned 1 through this quarantine, right? And
Right.
it's shuffling, you have to, the time she wakes up, who's going to feed her, who's going to be on the Skype call, or who's going to be on this Zoom call. And it's like my wife was in one room and we're like handing her off, and it's like, here, you have her this for this 2 hours while I'm in this meeting, and you have her for this next 2 hours, and it's like trying to schedule things around. So there was a huge change. um, I will tell you that, when the quarantine happened, I was like, oh yes, I have a lot of unplayed games. I have so much
Right.
time to,
Yeah.
tell my wife, hey, let's play this game, let's play this game. And that was definitely not the case.
He's like, yeah,
Definitely not the case.
I can become a gamer now. I can stream my games and psych.
Yeah, it's funny, like, but all in all, I know for me personally, when I look at how things changed for my life, it was, you know, we talked about before, we're big family men, right? We have our wives and our children that we love spending that time with, that quality time. And I was able to dive into that with my wife. When we're out, we're hustling, we're bustling, we're doing what we got to do. Who's going to pick up our daughter? Who's this? But our daughter was home and she wasn't walking yet. So through this quarantine, we were able to see her first steps. We were able to see her start walking. We were able to start see her saying words. We saw her 3 teeth that she has start to come in, right? We
Nice.
fought through those sleepless nights when she was teething and crying, waking up, sore gums, all that stuff, and see other milestones. So we have been able to appreciate those things, but there's been a challenge through it. At the time I was finishing up my degree. I've had college education, but yeah, I was going online. For me, it didn't change much because I was already going to school online, but I was able to finish my degree. Um, my wife, she's in her master's program. And I think that has honestly been the thing that's, I would say I'm gonna blame her for the reason that we can't play these games. Cause it's like, she works, right? She works a regular 9 to 5 job. And after the 9 to 5, it's like she goes to 2 days a week. She was going right into a Zoom call for her classes to like 7 o'clock at night. And then like the other free days, it's like, I'm like, babe, you want to play a game? She's like, I got to write this paper, or I got to study for this test, or I got to do this.
Right.
And I'm like, when is this quarantine going to be over?
Right. Yeah.
But we had to find ways to get around it, right? We had to find
Right.
other ways to get through it. And how, in essence, could you effectively change your hobby or hobbies that you do, right? To get you through the noise of this whole pandemic. I know some people were, active, huge active in the gym, like me, like I've got that huge gym body, but gyms were closed. How do people do this? And now they had to modify how they worked out at home, or start doing a lot of cardio running and all these different things, or modify, using items in the home or in their garages to start makeshifting weights that they were lifting. So everybody's had to make a change. How did we get through it? How did you affect it? So how did this quarantine essentially affect the hobbies that we do? Like for example, how did you tell the people how like things changed for you? Because like I said, you work for a college, and you come now you have to do all that stuff from home.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So ironically enough, it was crazy because I remember it was a Monday and our boss got the call and was like, hey, things might change in the next few weeks. We might not be here after the spring break. I'm like, what's going on? We didn't even know what was going on at the time. But literally Tuesday was like, be prepared, guys. We don't know when we're leaving, but it may not, we may not be coming back. We was like, okay, well, just let us know what we need to do. And we're just still working though. Wednesday morning, you're not coming back. We're closing indefinitely. I'm like, wait, what? He was like, get what you need and take it home. And I was like, okay. I literally took my 2 monitors, which is like right behind me, 2 monitors, my desk organizer with all my paperwork, my laptop and everything, and working from home. What made it scary for me is that I'm a recruiter. So this is prime time to get students in throughout this whole thing, and all big events were closed. They shut everything down. All the college fairs, all the little after school events that they had, that and the little meetings and one-on-ones that I had with certain schools, it shut everything down. So the worst part is being a recruiter, you have to be on the phone and you got to be on your emails. Phone calls, because of the pandemic, people were panicking. They're calling me like I have the answers. I'm like, I'm a recruiter trying to get your child to come to the school. I don't know what's going to happen for this pandemic. Just know we should be fine. And we're working to come back in September. I don't know, you know.
Exactly.
So, like I said, I got two girls. So, and same here. Aria, our oldest, her birthday was through the pandemic, so we had a Zoom call, a Zoom birthday. She didn't know the difference. She loved it, you know, and that's what made us happy. It's like it wasn't like she, you know, was looking for something great. She just loved what she got, you know, and it was so much fun. And so many people drove by and dropped off gifts. And this girl's blessed. This girl got a crap ton of stuff. We was cleaning everything the entire night because it was prime time. But you know, so for her to be 4, and doing her pre-K work, which now all of a sudden went from everything being in class to now all of a sudden they have a Google Classroom. So now we got to check in, we got to mark things as complete. We have to make sure that she's doing them, and we have to teach her those things. My wife works in financial aid in her school, you know, and it's not college, but it's still another school. I won't disclose the name, but she's same thing, you know. It She may not have a lot of work like I did, but still had work to do because she was a part of the team that tried to help figure out how they were making the changes for all this to run electronically. um so, you know, back to back meetings, Zoom calls left and right, for both of us. You know, at certain points we didn't want to risk taking the girls anywhere or having anybody watch them, because, you know, it was in the prime of Corona when it first came out in March, or first hit us really bad in March. So, you know, juggling back and forth, breakfast, lunch, dinner, you know, making sure we have enough food in the house, making sure we had enough money to buy the food in the house, making sure, you know, they were entertained without being stuck behind a television, you know, making sure they were still learning motor skills and doing different things. You know, there was a lot that we tried to be as parents to make sure that our kids were good, but at the same time, we lost a lot of us. And one of the things that I learned throughout this time is that I struggle and I suffer from major depressive disorder. And in that, I had a real bad episode one weekend, and that's when it hit me that I was like, I can't do this like this anymore. So I remember letting my wife know, I was like, I'm going to go to the doctors this week. I'm going to set an appointment because I don't know how long I can take this being in the conditions that we're in, and me dealing with this. Like, you know, things that I'm thinking of don't make sense. You know, it's like almost reality changing. Um, so I went to the doctors. Very good. It's a new doctor now because the old doctor had left, but nonetheless, she was very educated in mental health as well as being a doctor. So it was good to have that help. And she definitely gave me what I needed. And ever since then, I've definitely been on a whole nother level. And, you know, with me taking the medication that I have, the antidepressants, as well as forcing myself to be stuck in my Bible every night to read a plan or be a part of a reading plan so that I keep hold myself accountable, has been monumental in the help that I get. Because even now, it honestly doesn't feel like a pandemic anymore. I feel like this is almost a norm.
Hmm.
And even with that, my norm is okay because mentally I'm really fine. Like, you know, I don't struggle to be happy, or I don't struggle to deal with certain activities or certain things like that. It's really just, um, I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy that everybody's healthy, you know, my family, my extended family, and my friends. And it's just good to be in this place now, knowing what I've knowing how I've got there, you know. So I believe it or not, if it wasn't for this pandemic, I honestly don't think my wife and I would be as connected as we are, or as connected that I am to myself, because we are busy people. Like, so before pandemic, every other first and third Tuesday was rehearsal, right? Was a rehearsal. So right after work, we had to go to rehearsal. Wednesdays was prayer and Bible study. I play piano at my church, so, you know, I had to play for prayer and had to be there for Bible study, or girls with Bible study. Thursdays, because I'm a part of another wedding band on the side, which I play bass for, you know, we had rehearsals on Thursday nights, and they lasted long. Fridays was work, And if I had a gig, I had to go to a gig on Friday night. If we had a wedding, it was Saturday. So that was all day because we usually have to travel. Sunday's church. You get up early, go to church, and then you come home. And if the girls are ready for a nap, we all take a nap together, eat dinner, and do it all over again starting starting
Monday.
next week. Yeah, on Monday. So it's we went from all that to stay home and don't go nowhere. And not gonna lie, that time has helped out immensely. So I'm one to always try to take advantage of a situation. So I try to find the positive in everything. And in this aspect, it was okay, stay at home. And people, I know some people don't have, their relationship may be different or their situation or circumstance may be different. So um but me and my wife, we really made a decision in the beginning that we were going to make sure we were always going to check in with each other. We're always going to keep that communication open to make sure that we're both okay. And the support that I get from her, even dealing with what I'm dealing with now, has been really, really great. And I will say this till the day I die, I don't think I could do it without her because she really has been a monumental help for me. And even then, like now, so my way of de-stressing, since I can't go out, which didn't really go out much anyway, was video games. I play with all my friends online. We meet up, we get a new party, we start talking, we kick it, we play, and then everybody go to bed. So because I play at night because I don't like to play when everybody's up because I feel like that's not cool. So that's
Right.
just me. But yeah, it was a 180. It went from the home being a place of peace to where now all the work stress literally landed right on top of where we used to de-stress. And because of that, it um I think that gave it even more stress, because your peace is no longer peace. So, you have to find a new way. And in the midst of that, that's what we did. I thank God for my boss too, because my boss is very lenient. He understood that I have kids and that being on the phone is borderline impossible. So he helped me out a whole lot with our team, helping us out, and answering emails and all that, because half the time, my wife she had to go to the office sometime and give out food to students and families. So I'm here with my girls by myself. I can't really answer emails because I got to keep an eye on them or make sure they're not into nothing or breaking anything. I got to make sure my oldest does her homework, so it was times that I would miss days of work just because of what has to be done in the house or what needs, we need to go grocery shopping, and grocery shopping was a whole journey, like wear a mask, when you come in, put everything in one section, clean every single thing, and then put it away, and then go take a shower, and then get yourself reset and go about your day. And at that point, it's a lot, man. And but we've like I said, we gotten used to it.
Yeah. It's like it's funny because like you said you had your hobbies was like video games, right? And
Yeah,
then your other hobby was life, right? Like
literally.
you created and you discovered a new hobby. Like, welcome to
Yeah,
Lobby Hobbies. You enter, share, and discover that my new hobby is doing everything in the house for this pandemic,
right.
right? You
Yeah,
become a teacher, you become a this, you become everything, right? But like for me, it was a little different. Like you know, you have this idea of people are like, oh, I have cabin fever. Like, I have no cabin fever. It's just me. Like you said talking about looking for the best in things, right? It's just like I said, for me, like I said, I had that blessing. I was like, I was able to spend some time with my wife, my daughter, slow down. Cause like I said, people are so busy in life, right? Moving
right,
around. That's the hustle and bustle. That's like the new American way is if you're not hustling and bustling, you're not getting anywhere. But the pandemic allowed us to slow down as a family, allowed us to take in, because when you're moving around so fast, that in essence becomes your noise. That's
right,
what kind of slows you down. You kind of got to break through that portion. And how do you do it when you're always moving? There's a heavy demand at work, getting to work on time, getting the kids to this daycare on time, and doing all these things. But it allowed us to slow down. But for me, people are like, oh, you're getting cabin fever. Do you get cabin fever? I was like, no, I don't get cabin fever. Like, I'm an introvert at heart. Like, I do have this extrovert. I do like when I'm around people, I can talk, and it's like a switch I get to turn off. I guess I'm blessed that way. But internally, I'm an introvert. leave me in the corner of the room with something that I enjoy, that I like, I'm perfectly fine. But if I need to be within a party or a group of people that I have to start, conversing or talking to, yeah, I can be there. Sometimes I can be the person who just talks too much. But all in all, like, that's just where it was. So I enjoyed my time at home. I'm still enjoying my time at home. Now that we're able to do more things, get out and about, certain things are starting to open up, parks, we can do those things. Before we couldn't. It was just, for us, I was comfortable with just getting out of the house, taking a walk around my neighborhood, and that being the thing that kind of just have a change of scenery. Instead of working inside the house, I would go on my porch and work out on the porch, or work in the backyard. So those are things that we were able to do. I will tell you where I struggled personally, and it did take a toll on me. It wasn't even the fact I couldn't play my games. What really struggled with me was, having to see having my daughter, you know, do FaceTime chats with her grandparents, like, my in-laws and my parents and her uncles and her aunts and stuff. It's like, man, I really wish that they could hold her and they could, give her kisses and all that other stuff. So there was that was an internal struggle for me. Me personally, I was fine. I struggled more for her not being able to experience that, right? And it was that way I was like, oh, how is she gonna do after this? But like I said, kids, they're resilient, right? They get through everything. So them getting through the noise, they make a lot of noise, but they can
Right.
get through all the other noise, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to get through their noise.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
but I think all in all, like, through it, I think I was able to discover um, how to do things and how to still connect, right? I think because the biggest part of it was, you know, the things that we do. So we're talking about it earlier, the hobbies that we're into, like, how do those things help us get through? And I think, being connected to a lot of different, Facebook groups and Discord servers where people are talking about games or whatnot, or watching things on YouTube, there was a community of people that just rose up and started saying, hey, let's find ways that we can still connect with people. We can't go to a board game shop, or we can't maybe meet up with people that we probably used to play NBA 2K for. For video gamers, it was a little bit different because, you could
Mhm.
hop online and still play. But what about those people who like that tactile? So board gamers, it was a little bit tough. But I know for me, for example, like, I was introduced to a couple new board games through this pandemic, right? There was, I was like, how do I play games with people online? And, instead of it just always being me and my wife, sometimes I do want that game where it's 3 or 4 players that can play. And I was introduced. I was in, certain board game groups, like the Board Game Spotlight over there, the Derek and Lizzie Funkhauser. They have an awesome, group, of community there, where they were playing, you know, games online, and they had that Jackbox TV. I think we even did a couples game night with that
Yeah, we did.
Jackbox
Yep,
TV.
we did.
I honestly never knew about it until I saw them playing it. And I was like, you know what? I think I texted you, was like, Judge, we gotta do like a couples game. I just get it. So we texted a bunch of people, set up like a Google Hangout meet, and we were able to play it by sharing the screen on the computers, and we had a good time. It was fun. We played till wee hours of the morning. But after our kids went to sleep, I think we
Right.
felt it the next morning when our kids was like 7, 8 o'clock, and they're waking up, and we're just like, oh, we still need a little bit more time in bed. But those are those things that we were able to do. I know, your video gamers, you had the different streaming events. I know a lot of people got into like streaming TV, right? I think everything was sold out through this pandemic. Not only toilet paper, right? It was
Right.
the Roku's, the Fire Sticks were for sale, like, or were sold out. Like, webcams were now, because everybody's doing Zoom. Webcams went from like price for 50, 60 bucks, and people were like on selling them on Facebook Marketplace for like double, triple their price. But I know online gaming had become a big thing, like video games, mobile gaming, and I started playing games more so. Although I already had them on my like tablet or my iPhone, started playing board games against people online. And I think through this, I was even introduced to playing, like I said, playing some board games on Zoom. A couple different. We even hosted one. We hosted a little. I guess we call it a flip and write game called Cartographers, where we actually did a giveaway on the
Right. We
Lobby of
did.
Hobbies Facebook page, and we just put a camera down on the table, and we streamed it and allowed people who were watching that time to play a game. And I think it was cool because, and I had some friends Oscar Valera, who actually hosted him and Mike DePasquale, who they run a Facebook, actually a YouTube channel. It's a on the move gaming YouTube channel. I've checked them out on YouTube. Two awesome guys. They're from here, from New Jersey, a little bit more north of us, but they hosted this cartographers game. I looked at it, I was like, wow, this is a pretty cool game. Let me check it out. I wound up getting a hold of the game, and we hosted an event on Lobby of Hobbies, and we had some people that were very interested in it, and it allowed people to connect. And some people, like you said, who were never used to or never introduced to playing games online through a webcam, they were able to do that, like board games, actual physical board games. I know for me, I was able to jump in and play my first game on tabletop simulator, where it's like, where you actually have the board game that you would naturally physically play in front of you, but it's like in a digital version, almost like a 3D virtual world. And you don't have you're actually holding the cards are on the table. It's the same exact board game, but you're playing. It takes a little bit longer to play, but I know throughout this pandemic, there was a lot of people playing, and I was a little intimidated at first. I like the tactile nature of actually having cards and rolling physical dice and stuff, but being introduced, having people walk me through it, through Tabletop Simulator. There's other forms like Tabletopia. Both of those are on the Steam platform on both PC and Mac. But then you also have a website called Board Game Arena, and they have board games on there. And it's what's awesome is that you had publishers and people who are designers who are creating these board games and actually uploading them so you can actually play it. So it's like, hey, people are not playing our game. Can we come up with a digital format so they can actually play it? And you had that opportunity to do those things. But I thought it was pretty cool. That's how, when it came to hobby, that's actually how I played most of my games. It wasn't, I want to say there was a couple games that my wife and I played on the shelf. Like we did play, I think I mentioned it last episode, we played a little bit of Dice Throne, and she whooped my butt. And but we did play a little bit quick roll and write, flip and write type games. But we honestly, I'll tell you, we have not sat down at a table because of the nature of how things had changed for us, right? Working from home, having to be, for me, I'm not teaching, but I have to be the daycare provider and working at the same time while I was going to school. So it was challenging in that sense, and it was tough to break through, like I said. But ultimately, the cabin fever thing wasn't a thing for you. But I know it was big for some people. I know some people are like, shoot, I can't stay at home. I got to get out. Like, I don't care. I'm gonna still have my game nights. I'm gonna still have to do this and that. Everybody teach their own. That wasn't, that was just not my choice. But we all had our things, and how we got through it, how we made those changes. Our hobbies that we're into. I think one big thing, I'll say honestly, the toughest thing for me through this whole pandemic when it comes to hobbies is that there was no sports on TV. I'm a huge baseball fan. That's my sport. And I'm a creature of habit in some essences. So like spring came around, and it's like, where's baseball on TV? I need baseball. Like that's part of my spring. So my spring was without baseball, which was weird. Now we had the summer, and there's no baseball still on TV. And those things are still being talked about. Are they going to have it? Yeah, maybe not. We don't know. Everything was put to a halt. So for the sports fans out there, a lot of sports fans, they look at that as their breakthrough, right? That's their escape from the things that are going on in the world. And it's like, are they ever going to get back? We're starting to move into it, but a lot of things are contact team sports. Like how do they get through those things? And I think that's what's been a difficult challenge for some people.
Yeah. It's just crazy. Like it's at first I didn't really know, how to think of it. Like even when we decided to do this, I knew I wanted to talk about my struggles, right? But the one thing that I do realize is like how our communities have been giving back. So there were businesses that have been helping out throughout this time too, because even being in school, a lot of our students, it was spring break when this happened. So, they went out on spring break and then was like, don't come back, you know. So like one of the first ones I seen was U-Haul. U-Haul said they would grant students who needed to move out of their school a free ride, and I think it was like a free certain amount of time for them to have their car. um Verizon did a whole thing of free internet service, and certain other service companies, Comcast I believe was one too, where they gave away some like like free essential internet service for people who were qualified for it, because that was the thing, you had to qualify for it. Certain companies were giving away laptops, or laptops were cheap, like $150 for like a simple laptop. Schools, high schools and middle schools, because I keep track of those too, because I have family members that work for high schools and middle schools, had access to things that they never had access to before. So there was a sense of community that came together, of a gathering of the community, which was good to see. It's like, kind of give me hope just to know, like, we all live in different places, and we go through different things, but at the end of the day, we struggle with the same thing, that we do need a togetherness, because that's the one thing that's going to get us through um, any challenge. Which goes back to gaming. You can play a game by yourself, but it's always better to play a game with someone else.
Yes.
And that's why at the last episode we talked about our top 5 games. So video game wise, my top 5 there was the Division and the Division 2. I believe the only reason that is one is they're called looter shooters. You kill and you get loot, and you want the best loot, you want to make the best build, right? But the thing was, I have a team that I play with. So and I guess our biggest struggle was what time you getting on, like when you gonna get on, because that's what we need to know, and but when we all got on, just cut it up, talking about what happened during the day, because we all knew each other personally too. It wasn't just the fact of oh, we just on the game because we know each other, but it grew our relationship as well, because now we're really dependent on the person, and we're kind of like confiding in them a little bit more. So it was definitely a challenge, but man, it had some good times. Like um, it could be worse, but it could be better, but it also could be worse. Because like I said, we work from home, so we didn't lose our jobs. And even with the program that I work for, um, if students don't live on campus, my program technically doesn't exist. So what that means is, will I have a job? I don't know, but
Yeah.
ultimately talking to our my boss, he was like, listen, if it happens, there's no need to worry. We have something in play for you to keep working. And I was like, listen, I appreciate that, because ultimately that's something that I don't have power over. And we pray over it every day, like, look, listen, God, we are eternally grateful for your grace and mercy, because we could have went out there, got sick, got our girl sick, got her mother-in-law, got my mother-in-law sick, got my family sick, but none of our family members are sick. We're not sick. We're not hurt. We're not harmed. We just have a quick struggle, and we do understand that it could be worse. um it could be better, but it also could be worse, and that's how we look at it.
You made a good point, because you were talking about, we're talking about the whole idea that the struggle is real, but you made a mention of community coming together, right? People
Right.
coming together. And like, even in the sense of, playing video games online with your friends, things change, because it's like, naturally, it's like, okay, we went through our hustle bustle, we have our kids, they were fed, all that stuff, the wife went down to sleep or whatever, so now I got time, we can all cut it up and go, play a game. So that was the original routine, right? And then it changed. The hobbies that we did completely changed, but now it's like you said, we got online, we were talking, we were playing a game, but then your conversations opened up, right? It's
Right.
like, what are you going through? What's this, right? That, what's that? So your hobbies sometimes helped get you through it, because your hobbies changed a little bit. Now, on the board game aspect, there was people in the community in different board game Facebook groups, on Instagram, on Twitter, all these different things of board game companies that were out there, understanding that kids are at home, families are at home. It was difficult for them outside of their schoolwork that they had to do, for families to kind of stay connected, to do things. There was only so much you do. Like, you have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, right?
Right.
Like, how do you make each day different for them, so that for them it didn't become redundant, and for them they didn't get the cabin fever, right? so that they can be like, oh, this is fresh, this is new, it's a game we're playing. So there was companies out there that were, you know, selling board games at, you know, dirt cheap price. There was companies that were
Right.
giving them away. There was people in the board game community that were providing board games, like whether it was new or used, and just shipping them out um, to people who were in need. And there was things you could sign up for to have that, which I thought was awesome. And I think that was one of the board games, I think right before the pandemic, that I had signed up for, and actually a Facebook board game group, was called like Board Game Wishes, and it's a group where and I think you're in that group too, where
Yeah.
you have people who are interested in board games. They get in there, they create like an Amazon wish list, and they go out there and they talk about, you know, the board games. It was a community of just people just talking. They post their list, and then it's almost like a secret Santa. You might show, like, you come home one day and like someone purchased something from your Amazon wish list that you shared. It was delivered to your house, and I think that was crucial. It was funny because that started by someone who just had the passion to do that, to share. I think they had talked about, like, if I remember, I can't remember the creator of that group at this moment. Forgive me if the name escapes, but I think he got the idea from his wife, who was in like a almost like a Secret Santa type group during the holidays or whatnot. And he's like, hey, we can do this with board games, and, you know, we can provide it for someone. And this happened before the pandemic, but I think it helped get people through the pandemic too, because, you know, you had people who in essence lost their jobs, weren't able to purchase games, but they still had kids. How do they deal with these things? And you had people in the community gather together, right? Where you had someone who was willing to say, you know what, this person posted their list. They had this story, or whatever the case may be. They met people just through talking, whether it might have been in private chat or whatever the case may be, about the hobby that they're into.
Hmm.
And hey, send out a board game. It shows up at their doorstep, and then the next day you see them posting the picture of the game that arrived at their board, that they're at their porch or their front step. And there's pictures of people playing the games with their family and stuff like that, which was, like you said, it was, again, the sense of community that has come together through this whole pandemic, this quarantine, um, that things that have happened. And I think um, that's what's cool about it. Sometimes you can put your differences aside to be able to come together and be a community, right? And we know that, you know, if you look at things that are going on with the social injustice, the racial injustices that are going on in just in life, right? You have people that are just divided, and it's sad that that's the case. It should not be that way. You know, people are making a stand has to be made, but ultimately, you know, through it all, hobbies can help bring people together, because when you sit down at a table, or you sit down online with someone, or you sit down, you know, and we're not talking about sit down online and hiding behind, you know, like the trolls we see online, but I'm talking about literally sit down and have a discussion with people while you're into your hobby, which is one thing that I enjoyed about board gaming, right? I can sit down at a board game table um, with people who look different from me. May they treat me different? Hey, they might treat me differently. They might look at me differently, and hey, I don't look like them, and I might get that. But, you know, I sit down at that table because we have one common thing, right? It's love to game, right? We can enjoy that time. And the same thing, like with video games, right? You can get behind the controller and go online and get together with a group of people that you have one common thing, have complete differences, talk those things out, right? Get to understand each other, but you're always going to have the troll. You're always going to have that other person who's going to be the, you know, the knucklehead that's going to just spew their venom, right?
Right.
But, you know, those things where you got to step up. Sometimes you step up against those things, but, you know, ultimately, you know, I think um, finding a hobby, whatever it is, whether it's board games, whether it's trying a new hobby, whether it's video games, getting into sports, doing an activity, going out hiking. You know, I know that was a big thing that I would see people online. Hey, I'm going for a hike. And, you know, some people, I know some people that are, you know, now that national parks and different county parks are opening up to camp, they're like, I'm gonna go camping. They've never gone camping, but first of all, they want to get out the house. They want to do something. Campgrounds are open. Like, you know what, I'm gonna camp. It's a new hobby for them. You know, I know that there's new campers because my wife and I love camping, and we tried to get a campsite, and it's like the campsites are like blocked up. They're like oh no. And normally it's during weekends that throughout the year that when we do camp, they're normally open. So what's cool is that what I've noticed is that through all these changes, through all these noise that have come up, through this struggle, you said communities have come together, have introduced people to new things, and ultimately, while people's hobbies may have changed, they also have carried them through the things, right? And
Right.
they've carried them. And like you said, some people, unfortunately, they struggle with those things. You were talking about the whole struggling with the depression and struggling with just things that come up. A lot of times our hobbies or the things that we do are the things that we can hold on to when you do it the correct way, can kind of help get you through those things. And that's the idea, like what we do here, right? With Lobby Hobbies, it's like, hey, we want to learn something new, because ultimately maybe my hobbies would not have gotten me through the, maybe
Right.
like, hey, I'm a barber. I just love cutting hair. That would have been a little bit tough if that was my hobby during the quarantine, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I want to be introduced to something else. And I think that's the idea of what we do here is like, we're a community. We want to share our things with other people, and hopefully that they get to learn those things. So, ultimately, I think that's where it's at. We have so many things in life that we deal with, but how do we get through it? And ultimately, we look at it and like the things that we do, the things that we're into, get us through it. I know board games do. I love board games.
Right. Yeah. Same here. Board games and video games.
When I'm down, I can honestly be like, hey, well, let's play a board game. You know, I'll be honest. And my wife asked me, what do you want to do for Father's Day this weekend? I said, I don't know. I'm not really picky. I don't like to, make things. We do whatever. We can do it. She's like,
Right.
no, come up with something. What do you want? Is there a certain meal that you want or whatever? I said, yeah, I want steak. It don't matter what day. It could be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It don't matter. I haven't had a good steak in a while. I want a steak, and it's got to be cast iron. Cast iron.
Hey, there you go. Real deal.
Cook it on the cast iron skillet. Um, so get that steak, and I want to play a board game. She's like, that's it? I said, yeah, I haven't played a board game in a while. Like literally like a solid game that's gonna, take me a good hour and a half, maybe longer to play. I think the longest game that I've recently played was a game called Maracaibo.
Okay.
And that was I played that on Tabletop Simulator with Bob Crowell of One Board Family. He's down in Georgia. We met him at PAX.
At
He was
PAX, yeah,
actually
yeah.
he was one of the guys that we played Flotilla with.
Right, yeah, he was sitting
Right,
next to
it
me.
was
I
him.
remember.
We played
Yeah.
with him. We played with Isaac over at Gaming with Sidekicks.
Yep.
And they taught us Flotilla, which is an awesome game, which has got us into heavier stuff. Right, I think.
Right.
It's funny because you said your last podcast is you're new to the hobby, right? You're newer. Listen, I'm new to. There's always something new in any hobby that we do, but when it came to board games, I'm new to that heavier. I'm talking about like heavy strategy. The game's going to take 2, possibly 3 hours to play. But this Maracaibo was one that I demoed at PAX. My head was spinning. I played it first thing in the morning. The moment the exhibit hall, I was the first one in the chair. And it was the night before, I think we were up. You and I were still at PAX like almost 2 a.m. playing games. Got home, took the
Man, oh
bus.
my
I
gosh,
mean, took
yo.
took
That
took
was
the train
crazy.
home. Got to bed at like 3:30 in the
Woke
morning.
up at 6
Woke up
or
at
7
6 to catch the train to get back into Philly.
and to be
And
there
I was
all
like,
day long.
I have to play this game first thing in the morning. Like everybody's talking about it, and I played it. And I'll be honest, I walked away that table. My head hurt, my brain hurt. I knew nothing about the game. It's like I didn't learn anything. It's like I didn't even know what I played. So like I was like, I should have went back to play it, but I just watched so many videos over the course of that time, and then I did add it to my collection. It's probably on the shelf somewhere. But when I played it, I got a chance. And my copy's still sealed, I believe. But I know Bob said, "Hey, why don't I'll teach you this game. It's going to take about 4 hours out of your schedule." So I told my
Crazy.
wife, "I might play a game. It might take 3."
You always got to milk it. You always got to milk it.
But
Yep.
we set the time, we set the day to play it, and I played with, it was me, Bob, and JT over at Gaming with Sidekicks. Good group of people, and we sat down as the three of us. We played that game. Bob taught it, and it was fun. Like after the game, I fell in love with it. It was one of those things I fell in love with, and like for me, like I said, sometimes I jump in early, right? Like I get a game that I might have played or demoed somewhere, and I add it to my collection because I absolutely love it. But then I add it to my collection without thinking that I have the people that I can play it with, because
Right.
the same people that are at the conventions are not the same people that you play games with all the time, right? But it was cool because this is one of those games I was like, man, I got it. Am I gonna even get a chance to play it? And if I do, I have to learn it. So thanks to Bob, who actually taught that game, because the game's incredible. It's definitely one of those games that the more that I play it, I can easily see it being, in my top 10, top 5. It's one of those type of games, but it's also one of those games that I can see why a lot of people have it as their top board game of 2019. Like it's simply that. It's one of those games that you and I, Judge, have to play. We must.
Absolutely. Say less. We want it. We want it.
And there's a legacy aspect to it, I believe, where that game kind of changes. So there's some different elements, the ways to play that game, which I think it'll be pretty cool.
You ain't got to convince me. Just tell me we got to play it, and I'm there.
It's the day, the time, and the table, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's I think that's gonna give us a good conclusion to our listeners. Thank you for joining us today. And again, the idea of the Through the Noise is that something that we're definitely gonna be featuring on our Hobby Lobby podcast. And it's the little segment that we want to get a chance to let people know things that are going on, things that we might personally be struggling with, and dealing with. And it doesn't necessarily mean that struggle is real. It's just things that happen just in general in life, and how our hobbies affect that, how our hobbies, are changed because of it. So ultimately, just want to thank everybody for coming through again. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/the hobby of lobbies, on Instagram, Twitter at lobby of hobbies, our email, thelobbyofhobbies@gmail.com, and then our website, thelobbyofhobbies.wixsite.com/home. Honestly, if you go to any of those shorter names, you'll probably get to it, and
Right.
you'll find the website. Connect with us there. Before we get going, Judge, what do you want to leave the people with?
I want to ask them a question. Would like to see some responses in Facebook if you guys get a chance. The question is, what new things have you started since the quarantine? We want to hear from you guys. We want to know what you started. We know ours really didn't change as much. Certain things happened, and our relationships changed a little bit because we ultimately, that's my biggest thing. I'm a family man, so I always take pride in what we do here at home and how we take care of a family. So that was my main concern. But this is our new thing. This podcast is the new hobby on top of the other hobbies that we deal with and work with. So we want to hear from you guys. Get a little bit of crowd participation. What new things have you started since this quarantine hit? You've had 4 months thus far. What have you done?
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Again, check us out and look forward to the next episode with us, Jazz and Judge. Thanks a lot, guys.
Peace out, guys.
Catch you later.